What up, buddy? It's your money buddy, Joe. Guys, today, I have a wife here. My first wife, my only wife, hopefully forever wife, Holly Peed. We are doing an anniversary couple money edition extravaganza video for you guys today because our 6-year anniversary was yesterday. But as of filming, it is not yesterday.
Nope, it's not.
And because our anniversary was coming up, I thought it would be awesome to introduce you guys to my wife and answer questions about money as a couple. You excited?
Yeah, I'm really excited.
Did I talk about money too much?
I think I've learned to understand that you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
And I can respect that.
Okay.
There are times where I think I really wish that he had a best buddy to talk about all these things with because
I need more buddies to talk about this with. That's why I get all my energy out talking to the camera.
Because
I to you guys.
I am not as passionate about this topic.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
Because she has a money buddy.
I do.
Forever buddy. Enough of the cheese. Today, we're gonna answer some questions. So let's get to them. Have you always been on the same money page? If not, how did you get there? Are we even there?
I feel like for the most part we are. Definitely in the beginning we were not.
Yeah, at the beginning we were definitely not on the same money page.
I can be more of the spender.
And I was more of the saver.
Yeah, I would literally, when I worked, high school or college, well, college definitely I had more bills to pay, but I was still living with my parents, so that was really nice. But I would literally pay for what I had to pay for, and then I would spend the rest of it. I saved pretty much nothing. So I really didn't have much to bring to the table when we got married, which, to be fair, we were both very, very young, so I don't want to knock us too hard.
So whenever we got married, we kind of we would butt heads and battle a little bit on how to spend our money and what to spend our money on and how much could we each spend on random things. But once we kind of figured out what our end goal was, what was our goal as a couple to reach money-wise, that's kind of when it was like, oh, hey, we need to probably, be more intentional about what we spend our money on, not just spend a little bit more here, spend a lot less in these categories. And I feel like we both kind of got on the same page after a while.
We both have a lot of the same interests already, so that really helped. It helped to know this is valuable to spend our money on and this is worth saving our money on. And so I feel like that really helped a lot, that we really have a lot of the same interests and we like a lot of the same things.
So I would say definitely find a common goal, a goal that you guys can both agree with as a couple. And once you know that, then you know how much you guys need to be saving, how much you guys need to be spending, and then you can just kind of go from there. And you can even change your goal over time as maybe you get a higher paying job, or maybe you get a lower paying job and you gotta save even more, but it's healthy to just talk about it and find what's best for you guys as a couple. Cucumber! How do you guys handle budgeting? So we use the pay yourself first budgeting method where we prioritize paying ourselves, our future selves, by putting the amount that we decided on per month towards our retirement. And then after that, we just use the rest on our bills and everything that's left over, and that's kind of it. It's very low maintenance. How do you guys both save for retirement? We both do Roth IRAs. That's kind of like our retirement fund. We max out our contributions every year, and after that, we kind of throw the rest of our investment money into taxable brokerage accounts. Ooh, this is a good one. How did you guys decide when and where to buy a house? And do you have any tips for a couple trying to buy their first home?
Well, really, the thing that kind of spearheaded our house buying process was we were sick of paying to rent. And we felt
fed up.
And we were tired of renting, and we had a really bad experience with our apartment complex. And so we were just like, we want to do this ourselves. We don't want to depend on someone else. From that feeling was, okay, let's look at how much money we've got. Can we even do this? We talked to several people who had already been through the house buying process and looked at how much money we had, got pre-approved for a loan. That is the most important step, because if you're not pre-approved, there's no point in looking for a house. And we had to look at what area, you know, we were comfortable living in, but then also one that made sense where we could see the value growing in the neighborhood. So there was a lot of different factors, and it also, I think, depends on what do you want to do with the house. Do you want to flip it? Do you want to resell it? Do you want to rent it? Do you want to keep it?
We definitely went in with the mindset that we definitely wanted to house hack a little bit. So we wanted to set up an Airbnb in whatever house that, you know, we got to help kind of supplement some of the mortgage. With that in mind, we went searching, we found a house for a good price, and the mortgage was even less than what our rent was at the time. With being able to do Airbnb, not have the apartment complex take your bike away, it was just a no-brainer for us to go ahead and try to get a house.
Yeah, and we didn't have any debt. You know, we had plenty of money saved up, and we had emergency funds for any emergency that happened, would happen with buying a home.
And for tips, you also don't even really have to put down 20% or aim for 20%. A lot of people say that, but I mean, really you could just put down 5% for a conventional loan. And especially if you can get that at a really low interest rate, you have a lot of opportunity to have more money for investing at that point, because your percentage of interest is so low. You can definitely get a way bigger return in the market if you put more of your money towards that over the long term.
Really talk about what your desires are with buying a house. I feel like that's probably the biggest tip that I could give.
And make sure that you don't shoot for the moon. Don't buy more house than what you can afford. We definitely tried to really get our costs down and make sure we were finding like a good deal. And something that was definitely within our price range and not just out there just because, oh, it's just, this is what everyone's paying, so we're gonna go with that. So we definitely tried to find something within our ballpark, honestly. How much should a couple save for retirement? That is up to you guys. Depends on what you can live on. And I also don't even know where you guys are living right now. And it's way less expensive living here in Atlanta than it is like in California or New York City. So it totally depends on what the average living expenses are out there. But for us, living here in Atlanta, I know that per year our expenses, not including business expenses, around like $25,000 a year. So for us, I'm aiming for a little bit more for our retirement to generate. So we were thinking $40,000 because it's a good buffer, but also our money over time is gonna deal with inflation, and in the future, our money isn't gonna buy as much as it can today. So we decided to aim for reaching $1 million for our retirement. But for you guys, you might could do 500,000.
I think it depends on how extravagantly you want to live.
So ultimately, there's no one right answer for how much you save for retirement, and you guys just gotta decide that for yourselves as a couple. Also, if you're having trouble figuring out what amount you guys want to settle on, just figure out what you need to live on per year and multiply that times 25. And that's the amount that you'll want to aim for reaching in your investments. How do you decide how much money to take out once you retire and to prepare for your future tax bracket How much do you take out of Social Security so you have enough to live and pay taxes? I still get super confused with taxes. Like, I have to talk to my CPA lady like so much just to be like, what is this? What's this tax policy again? Like, what are you talking about?
Especially for freelance.
Especially getting into all this S Corp stuff.
Yeah.
As of recent, with my business, it's so confusing. Our tax system is the most confusing in the world.
I mean, let's be real.
Yeah. They change stuff every single year. So I have no clue if they're gonna change anything about the whole tax bracket system in the future whenever we do finally retire.
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm not too worried about it. We're trying to reach an amount to generate us an amount that will more than cover in our living expenses. So I'm not worried about what the taxes will be necessarily. And there are a lot of tax loopholes out there that I'm still learning and figuring out. And probably, honestly, closer to the time of when we do finally retire, I'm sure we'll have to talk to our CPA or a financial advisor and try to figure out what's the best plan that we can do to save the most money on taxes. Now, when you're taking money out of retirement, or especially like taxable accounts, because we want to retire a little earlier, so we're going to have to draw out of our taxable accounts before we can even draw on our IRAs. So we're not going to just draw out 40 grand for the year because that's our salary, because that'll be like a huge, taxable event, so we'll probably just draw out what we need at a time, and hey, maybe we won't even draw out over, 40,000 a year, and then that way we won't be taxed as much. One of the best way to save just 100% of your money on taxes in retirement is having your money thrown into a tax-advantaged investment account like an IRA or a 401k, and the gains on that account are completely tax-free. Why don't you take the part of the question about Social Security? So
we want to try and be as independent as possible with our money.
Yeah, we don't want to rely on the government for our money. Who knows what Social Security will do in the future? Some people say, oh, it'll run out.
Yeah, I mean,
if it's there, it's kind of like a cherry on top, you know?
Nice little bonus.
Yeah, it's like bonus, which is awesome.
That's how we look at it, so. In
our research, I don't think Social Security is gonna run out, but I definitely think there might be cutbacks with Social Security. But if you can, the best thing to do is to delay a drawing on Social Security, because you're gonna get paid out so much more in Social Security the longer you wait.
We combined these two questions because we felt like they went really hand in hand.
Yeah.
How involved are you in each other's spending? How do you have financial freedom as individuals in a marriage? Really good questions.
Yeah, why don't you start on this one?
All right, so we're pretty involved with each other's spending. I mean, we're very open about our money. We have the same account, like bank account, and once we got married, we combined everything. So we felt that was very important to keep things as transparent as possible from the beginning.
Towards the beginning of our marriage, I felt like I was kind of in the wrong for really getting down on, because since I'm more of the saver and you were a little more of the spender at the beginning of our marriage, I have a story. So we were on a trip and we stopped at a gas station.
It was a work trip.
It was a work trip. I was
in the middle of nowhere.
In the middle of nowhere. Holly goes into the gas station and she buys a drink and some crackers. And I blew my lid. And I was like, why would you pay 5 times as much for crackers in a gas station when we could have gone to the grocery store? And why'd you buy a drink here when you could have gotten water? That was a long time ago. That was cheap Joe, and totally a super cheap move and not cool. So I was trying to put my cheapness and shove it into your mind.
Yeah.
And that it was not frugal at all.
Yeah, and from my perspective, you know, I was
and
like, we're hours from home, it's late at night. I know he's probably not gonna wanna go get dinner somewhere, and I'm just a little hungry.
Yeah.
So that was my reasoning, and that was a really good learning experience for both of us.
Everyone has their own interests and their own like values. It's like me, I don't care as much about spending as much money on food, and I kind of just live as cheap as possible in my food category. But I'll spend a ton more money on camera equipment and things like that. So
versus me, I really do value eating out. Not all the time, but I really love to have dinner somewhere every now and then, because growing up, I didn't get to do that as much. And so when we did, it was very special. It was a special occasion, or, you know, just a little like treat. And so that's how I see eating out. And I'm like, well, I'm not getting my nails done all the time. I'm not dyeing my hair all the time. So that's kind of how I kind of keep that financial freedom for myself, because I'm like, I know the things that I value, and I know that this is not like going too far with it. Here's an example. I just bought a brand new pair of Nikes. Those are pretty expensive, but I needed some nice shoes, and it's been a while. And so, again, I thought to myself, I'm not going out and spending money all the time.
Holly actually is very frugal. Holly doesn't spend an arm and a leg on makeup. You know,
sometimes I do, but
sometimes
I make it less.
She's very minimal with it. So like, you know, she's very minimal in like a lot of her purchases. So like, instead of having like, you know, 10,000 shoes, she's gonna have like 3 or 4 really nice pairs of shoes.
That will last.
Rather than, you know, just a closet, you know, full.
Yeah, I really value quality stuff, because I guess the way I see it is, why am I gonna keep buying this cheap clothing or whatever if it's just gonna wear out? It's gonna wear out, and I'm gonna end up spending, if not more, the same amount on something higher quality that I can have longer.
Yeah, but we definitely had to have like those conversations about what each of us value and tell each other kind of like, hey, this is what I would like to spend more money on. So like, no, hey, I'm saving in this area. You're gonna save in this area, and with our saving and spending combined, we will be equal, or we will be
it'll even out
in the end, and we'll still reach our budgeting retirement goals. And whenever I see like a receipt that's like, maybe like, oh, I spent $20 on makeup, well, I know that makeup's gonna last for like a long time, because I know how she's frugal with her makeup purchases, because we've had that discussion.
So one of the things that it took me a little bit to understand, I am more of the spender in our relationship. So I had to understand that it was gonna take him time with being the saver to trust me. Because just because one of you maybe spends a little more or shops more, it doesn't mean that that's always really a bad thing. I think it can be unhealthy, but it's been great being married to him, because he's taught me how to be frugal, and really like, is this really important to buy?
She has also taught me how to spend. Because sometimes I deprive myself too much.
I love experiences. So it's been really cool. So to the saver, have some grace for your spouse who's spending, and try to trust them. And to the spender, figure out ways to spend with logic, and that way your spouse can trust you.
How much money should we put away for our kids so they are set up when we have nothing now? It's kind of hard when you're talking about kids, because you know, we see our kids as like, oh, we want them to have a better future than us, right?
Yeah.
Like, we want them to have a better, like, upbringing than what we had.
Totally makes sense.
I love to view it like when you're on an airplane. If you're in an emergency situation and the masks fall down, they ask the parent to, or guardian or whoever, the adult, to put on their mask first and before they help someone else, because if they're running out of oxygen and all that, then
you can't help anybody.
you can't help anyone.
The other person's just gonna suffer while you suffer.
So what I recommend is for the parent to make sure that they're good financially, making sure that they're able to hit their retirement savings goals. And then whatever's left over, yeah, sure, you can put towards your kids, but make sure that you're good first before putting money towards your kids.
One thing that I feel like a lot of people don't, at least in my experience, a lot of people don't really talk about is their kids as adults. A lot of the times people tend to think of their kids growing up and they put the adult part in the back of their mind because it's so far in the future, which makes sense. But we have seen a lot of our friends, if they have a family that's in a tight financial situation or a parent passes away and they have a lot of debt, then that falls on the kids sometimes. So we really just want to make sure that we have all of our financial responsibilities taken care of so that our children don't have to deal with that because it's not theirs to deal with.
So I want to point back to the question, so how much money should we put away for our kids so that they are set up when we have nothing? If you have nothing, you should focus on yourself first before focusing on giving towards your kids' financial future.
What is one thing that you guys splurge on? For example, ice cream, movies, etc.
What do we splurge on?
We splurge on travel.
We definitely splurge on travel.
But we also have points, and so there's a lot of ways we save.
This is one thing I would definitely want to talk about in the future, in like a future episode. How we save on travel and how we do travel. We haven't bought flight tickets for years. We went to New Zealand, we've been to Norway, we've been to British Virgin Islands. We didn't spend anything on our flights. We do it every year. On our anniversary, we go somewhere. Right now, as you're watching this, we are in Washington. Well, if you watch it within the week of this coming out, we decided to go to Washington State and be out in the wilderness to social distance during this time. So that's where we're at. But we do this every year. Yeah,
this is the trip that we promised we would do every year, and that was very important to us. You know, we've had a lot of people ask, like, how can you know, I wish I could do this and travel, and we're like, you just have to make it a priority. It's really, you know,
you gotta decide what you spend your money on, what your values are.
Yeah, so for us, what we splurge on is travel. I feel like if we're gonna make it kind of small scale though.
One of my small scale splurges is chocolate from Aldi. That dark chocolate. It's so good, so good. And camera gear.
I really like shopping for clothes. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I do like clothes shopping. I don't always do it, so that is a splurge.
I don't understand.
It is definitely a splurge. One thing that I really value that I feel like is a splurge is I pay for Spotify Premium. I know they have a family thing, but it's not worth it to him.
We did it for a little bit, like the family thing, where you spend like $5 more.
Well,
now they got Duo.
Duo, yeah.
For $3 more.
Yeah. You still don't think it's worth it though.
I still don't
it's
think
totally worth it.
I just listen to podcasts. Like, so there's no ads on podcasts.
Yeah. Well, no. It's too much information.
But whenever we're in the car together, I listen to her Spotify.
Yeah.
So,
He mooches off of my splurge.
I mooch off her Spotify.
If I'm in debt, what is more important, getting out of debt or making my money grow?
We had debt whenever.
Yeah.
Mostly because of you.
Because of me.
She brought the debt.
It wasn't bad debt though. I mean, it was student loans, and then I was still paying off my car. So those are really the only two.
It depends on what the debt is. So like if your debt is over 4%, or especially over 5%, like especially if it's credit card debt, then pay that off first. That should be like number one.
Yeah.
Because there's no way you're gonna make that return in the market, and you should just get rid of it as fast as possible.
And it's just stressful. I feel like,
Oh, yeah.
like the thought of that weighing.
Weight
I
on
know
you?
for me, I just wouldn't want that weight like all the time.
Yeah. So if it's high interest debt, knock that thing out before you start making your money grow. And when you're talking about making your money grow, I assume you're talking about investing.
After we're out of debt, what should be the first step in becoming financially stable? Get. Wait, hang on.
Tell them.
Get that emergency fund set up, because you do not want to be hit with an emergency and then be like, well, crap.
You need some buffer in your life, you know? When something hits, like you have that buffer where it's not like, oh crap, I gotta put this on like credit card. I gotta pull out a loan because I wasn't prepared. That emergency fund definitely helps you have that buffer. So that should be like the next thing you do.
Get a safety net.
Yeah, get that safety net going. Get that moat around that castle, you know, that you're building up, right?
Yeah. All right. This is a question I'm excited to answer, because this one is one that I relate to. If I'm someone who strongly dislikes thinking about money, what is a good money habit that won't make me want to rip my head off?
She definitely didn't like thinking about money.
I still don't.
She still does.
I am not a numbers person.
I drive you nuts on it sometimes, like, because I talk about it too much sometimes.
Well, not all the time. I've gotten used to it now. But,
Okay, cool.
But I'm just not a math person. I never, ever have been a math person. I'm so thankful, and didn't know when I married him that he's such a good math person.
I do like math.
So one of the things that I found really helpful, for me, I really like to kind of know where our money is, so I can just quickly look at it and say, okay, this is how much we have. I don't have to sit and think like, well, I don't know. At the beginning of our marriage, it was kind of all over the place, so it felt very unorganized. And
I had several bank accounts. I had several brokerage accounts, because you would get sign-up bonuses by signing up with different accounts. So I was like, oh, free money. I'm gonna put my money here, here, here. So it made it confusing.
It was very confusing. And I already didn't like talking about money. So with our finances being super unorganized and me not enjoying talking about money, we had someone advise us on how to get organized. And that really helped me to see it more in a more simpler layout, because it felt so complicated to me for so long, because I would hear him talking about interest rates and compound interest and investing in this company, and I'm like, I don't even know what any of this means, and I really don't care. I care that you care, but I don't care. And so so it just helped, you know, make things very minimal for me, which I appreciate. So getting organized is really helpful. And talking about with your spouse who may enjoy talking about money more, ask them like, what are ways that I can help? Because I did kind of feel bad for a while, because he was taking care of things mostly, and I could see that it, even though he loved it, it was kind of burdening him. And so what I do is I pay all of our bills. I make sure everything's paid for, that way he doesn't have to worry about it. And so
it's nice to split up, like, the different jobs.
Giving myself that responsibility made me look at it differently. So my biggest takeaways are getting organized, and you can even set up automatic payments. That way you don't really have to think about it, because with all this money talk and like, what do I do next with my money? Like, who wants to think about, okay, now I gotta pay this one bill every month that I know is gonna be paid every month anyway. So it just helps take a lot of that extra burden off. So then your mind feels more clear to talk about investing and things like that. I can't say this for everybody, but I don't think that it'll ever change where I will just somehow love finances. I have never enjoyed it. When I was a child, it took me forever to understand how to count money. My mom was like, this is a nickel and this is a dime. And I'm like, why is the dime more? It's smaller. It should be less worth than the nickel. So that's me. And I don't think I'll ever really love it, but I figured out ways to help reduce the stress. And so assess that with yourself, and yeah, you could even try my tips and maybe it'll help.
I also feel like the more you learn and you saturate your brain with financial stuff, eventually it'll kind of stop sounding like
Foreign
like a foreign language.
Yeah.
And it'll be like, oh, I know what he's talking about.
Mm-hmm.
And it won't be as stressful to listen to or to understand.
So one thing that has also really helped me is Joe introduced me to the podcast How to Money. They are
great podcast.
Yeah, they talk about money and finances without all that money financial jargon that you would normally hear. They speak in it more in layman's terms, I guess. So people like me, where I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about, they break it down to where I can easily understand and grasp what they're talking about. That's been really helpful and given me a better perspective on how to look at money and take it seriously, because money is going to be with us for the rest of our lives, most
Whether
likely.
we like it or not.
Whether we like it or not. So I've got to figure something out. So it's good that you're asking. And yeah, hopefully these tips.
All right, this is our last question. Can we have all of your money? No. Can't have all of it.
No.
I'll give you $1. Well, what do you think of your first time on The Money Buddy?
I thought it was
Isn't
fun.
my audience beautiful?
I thought
They
it
look
was
great.
fun. Yeah, they look really nice.
Yes.
I'm not used to being on this side of the camera, so this is not normal for me, but it was really fun. Thanks for all your questions. It's fun
Yeah.
to talk about, you know, my perspective of all this too, because
Yeah.
him and I are very different.
We're
so.
super different.
So I think it's important for couples to talk to other couples and ask, like, what do you do? What do you? That's one of the things I feel like I've learned a lot with being married to this guy is like, talking about money should not be a scary thing. We all deal with it. So why not learn from each other?
Guys, it's been awesome. It's been real. I'm glad I was able to get my wife in here. If you guys have a question yourselves, ask us below in the comments. We'll answer them all to the best of our ability. You ready to close this out?
Yeah.
Until next time.
See you later, buddy.